This section is on parallel and perpendicular slopes and writing equations using different information. So let's review a couple things. First of all, the formula for slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, where 2 points on the line would be x1, y1, x2, y2. You can also switch them around top and bottom as long as you're consistent. Now we have slope-intercept form, which is one way to write an equation of a line, where m is the slope given by this formula. It's how steep a line is. B is the y-intercept, that is where the line hits the y-axis. Also point-slope form, y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1, where m is the slope of the line again, and x1 comma y1 is a point on the line. Notice the minuses, so if you put in, say, -4 for y1, this becomes y plus 4. Two lines that are parallel have the same slope, and two lines that are perpendicular have slopes that are negative reciprocals. So if you had a slope which was 2/3 for one line, then perpendicular to that would be -3/2, or if you had -5 for a slope, perpendicular to that would be +1/5, because -5 is like -5/1. So here's the formula for slope. Let's define slope. This is slope-intercept form of an equation, point-slope form for an equation, information about parallel perpendicular slopes, and here's a little bit of a demonstration of that. So if we want to find slope, we do the rise over the run, so change in the y over the change in x, and you divide them, and you end up getting 1 for this. Now, if we tilt this line horizontally, then we'll have no change in our y, and so 0 on top, which ends up being then a flat line, or y equals some number. So 0 is the slope. If we go vertically, now we have no change horizontally, and so we're dividing by 0. And so because of that, we have no slope, because you can't divide by 0. It's an infinite slope, or we just say no slope. So here's now slope-intercept form of a line. Move this out of the way a little bit. And this is going to plot the line y equals 1x plus 0. So slope of 1, y-intercept of 0. Okay, now you can see as we change the slope to 2, 3, 4, 5, it gets steeper. If we go back down to 0, it's flat. -1, it goes the other direction. -2, steeper again. Now we change the y-intercept, and the line will hit the y-axis at different places. Right now it's hitting it at 0. Now it hits it at 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. I can go down the other way. So we have a y-intercept of -3. Here's point-slope form. The slope m means the same thing, same formula to find it. And so let's take a look at the line. So this line will have a slope of 1 and go through the point 1, 0, because x1 is 1, y1 is 0. So it's a slope of 1, that's how steep it is, goes through the point 1, 0. So I can change the slope again. Let's change x1. So now it goes through the point -3, 0. You see how that affects the equation. Or I can move this down. Now it goes through the point -3, -5. So -3, -5 down here. Okay, this is now in this is taking the same line but put into slope-intercept form. And finally, looking at parallel and perpendicular, again we have a slope of 0.5. This new line, which is parallel, has the same slope, 0.5. So two lines that are parallel have the same slope. And if we move this one around, the lines remain parallel, and note that the slopes remain the same. They have the same value. And now let's take a look at perpendicular. Perpendicular lines are off by 90 degrees, so we'll see the rotation angles. It gets around to 90 degrees. The slope of the original line is 0.5, which is the same as 1/2, so a negative reciprocal should be -2/1. And you see that's what you get. -2 is the same as -2/1. So now we'll do some sample problems with this. Okay, we're supposed to find out if these lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. Well, the easiest way to do this is to find the slopes. And the easiest way to find the slopes is to have them in slope-intercept form, which again is y is equal to mx plus b. So in this case, m is 3, so that's your slope. Here, m is 1/3. Those are not the same number, so it's not parallel. They're not negative reciprocals, they're just reciprocals, so it's not perpendicular. This would be neither. For this one, different case now, y equals 2 is a horizontal line. x equals 0 is a vertical line. And horizontal lines and vertical lines are perpendicular, so the answer would be perpendicular. Over here, it's not in slope-intercept form yet, so I subtract 2/3 x from both sides and I get y equals negative 2/3 x plus 4. So here's my slope. This one is in slope-intercept form. Here's the slope. Those are the same number, and so it would be parallel. And then finally for this one, think of y equals x as y equals 1x plus 0, so my slope's 1. For this one, I will add x to each side, and then I'll divide by 8 to get y all by itself. So this becomes 1/8 x plus 1, and 1/8 is the slope, and 1 is not the same as 1/8. They're not negative reciprocals, so this would be neither. Okay, same idea for these problems, except now you are given a graph instead of points. So we just take the points off. Actually, we're given a graph and points instead of an equation. So for the line L1, we have the point -1, -3, and here we have the point 4, -2. So let's find the slope between those two. So that's -3, oh, excuse me, that's +3, -1, +3. So we have 3 minus -2 over -1 minus 4, which is going to be 5 over -5, or -1. For L2, we have the point 2, 4, and the point -3, -1. So that's 4 minus -1 over 2 minus -3, which is 5 over 5, which is equal to 1. -1 and 1 are negative reciprocals, so that would be perpendicular. Now for number 10, let's look at L1. And for L1, we have the point 3, 1, and we have the point -3, -2. So 1 minus -2 divided by 3 minus -3 is 3 over 6, which is a half. And now looking at L2, we have 4, -5, and -2, 5. So 5 minus -5 over -2 minus 4, which is 10 over -6, or -5/3. Now -5/3 and 1/2 are not negative reciprocals. They're not the same number, so this would be neither. And let's take a look at this one. These look like they could be parallel, but it's a little bit hard to tell. Remember, no, okay, let's go straight to 14. So for L1, we have the point 1, 5 and -3, 3. So 5 minus 3 over 1 minus -3, this becomes a plus. We get 2 over 4, which is a half. And then down here we have 5, -4, and -1, -7. And so you'll have -4 minus -7 over 5 minus -1, which becomes 3 over 6, which is a half. And those are the same, and so this would be parallel. Okay, now we want to write some equations. So the easiest way to write equations is to, if you're given a point, is to do it in point-slope form. So just to review real quickly, let me just write point-slope form here. Y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1, where m is the slope and x1, y1 is a point on that line. So here's our x1 is 3, our y1 is 2. We need to be perpendicular to this line, so we have to find its slope. So I will subtract 3x from both sides, and then I'll divide by 2. So our slope is -3/2. That means we want to have a slope of +3/2. So our equation of our line should be y minus 2, y minus y1, is equal to our slope 3/2 times x minus 3, since it's x minus x1. And then if you want to get it into slope-intercept form, you would distribute the 3/2 and add 2 to both sides. So sometimes that's necessary, sometimes it's optional. So this becomes y is equal to 3/2 x. 3/2 times 3 gives you minus 9/2 and then plus 2. So these combine to give you minus 5/2. All right. Then number 16. Number 16, we're going through this point. We want to be perpendicular to this slope, which gives us a slope of -4/3. So that's going to be y minus 8 is equal to -4/3 times x minus 12. Again, if you want it slope-intercept form, then you distribute the -4/3 and add 8 to both sides. Okay, for these two, 18 and 19, we want to be parallel. So now same slope, not negative reciprocal. We still need to get a slope, so I'm going to put 10y by itself. I'll have 10y is equal to 6x plus 5. Divide by 10, so that cancels. So my slope is 6 over 10, which becomes 3/5 for a slope. So it's now y minus 3 is equal to 3/5 times x minus -5. So that's x plus 5. And again, if you want to get in slope-intercept form, you distribute 3/5 and add 3. Finally, this last one we'll take a look at. This is a horizontal line, y equals -1. So that's down here. So that's just a flat line, y equals -1. If you want it to go through 0, 0, then it has to be the line y is equal to 0. So a slope of 0 going through 0, 0. So doing it the way we did before, you'd say y minus 0 is equal to 0 times x minus 0, but that just leads right to y equals 0. So sometimes it's just good to look at it graphically.